Hello, my friend.
Hey, I'm Jack. I'm back. I'm the intro stealer. I'm the punches dealer because Tyrus ain't here.
I usually get job leads too, but it usually has something to do with the weed whacker or some dishes.
I in Microsoft Excel.
Excel? Did she say she does up?
Yeah,
she said Excel. She just said that.
We were busting on PaintShop Pro last week in Windsor, so we got Excel. We got Excel as an actual target. So we got explain this.
What other kind of software do you use?
Quicken. Charlie said Quicken. The funniest thing you ever said. I'm literally asking you a question. You know what, Charlie? You know what it is? You know what it is? You're emotional. That's what it is. You're emotional. You can't hear me talk because you're emotional. You can't hear me. I'll let you be wrong. I don't mind. I'm nice like that. I'm nice like that, Charlie.
Okay.
You all right? You
I
get a
just
little
think
emotional.
we can bring it in. I can't stand anyone on this podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the Sketch Zone podcast. Host Carlos Gomez. With us this week, we have the one, the only, Will Terry. Welcome to the show, Will.
Hey, thanks for having me. I was going to say thanks for being me. I don't know why.
I would mind. It's not
That was like the first thing that came out. Thanks for being me.
And as always, we have Charlie B. Williams III.
Oh.
Muted. Muted.
Yeah, that's about right.
We have Jack Kaspersack.
Hello.
I'm not actually muted. I just thought I would mimic Charlie.
I'm not muted anymore. Hello.
Hey, Jack.
Shut up, Charlie. Your turn's over.
Fine. I'll hijack yours. Next.
And because Tyrus can't make up his mind, with us this week we have Patrick Coleman.
What's up? Hey, I'd like to say that intro song, Tyrus sounds like Wesley Willis with that music underneath him. You guys know Wesley Willis?
Nope. Nope. Never heard of him.
Okay. We're going to have to educate you guys later. That's not exactly a compliment, but...
Is he black?
Yeah, schizophrenic, homeless guy, lived around Chicago. He would put out an entire record that he made on his Casio, and the entire record would be, every song was the exact same track, and he would do different vocals over it. It just sounded crazy. But yeah.
Tyrus doesn't really live in that house. He just sneaks into the basement and steals their internet.
Does this podcast real quick.
And then I go back and spend more time with your mother.
I thought it was going to be a cricket song.
Charlie's mom does have good internet.
She's got more than good internet.
Oh, wow.
Damn.
Tyrus, how are you?
Well, not so good. I'm second place in the beer category tonight. Patrick here. This is terrible. This is what it feels like to be Charlie.
First place loser, man.
Wow, this is terrible. Charlie, I'm surprised you haven't killed yourself yet.
Just want to talk to the audience real quick.
Oh my gosh, this is terrible.
I'm just going to get this out there. It was so nice last week. Because Tyrus was not here. And now you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you were in first place last week. Today you're in third. I understand. It's really got to suck being you.
And now we're back to my own version of hell. Let's keep it moving. I want to hear something. I want to hear something better. Because Will Terry's here.
Don't it do it for me?
This will make you feel better.
Oh my gosh, I saw this video you post.
Watch me whip, watch me nene.
Did you see the little girl and her mom?
Okay. Now watch me whip, watch me nene. Can you do it? Now watch me, watch me, watch me.
I'm not dancing, by the way. I'm not going
to... Have you seen this video? Your beard is dancing.
Get it, Will? Get it, Will? He's like, no, I'm alright.
As long as you keep it on, the head just starts moving. It just... See?
Watch me, Will. Watch me, Charlie. Watch me, Will. Will. Watch me, Charlie. No.
No, we're not watching you do anything. Stop
I was trying.
Stop it.
Hey, Will Terry, how's it going, man?
It's going great.
Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
You guys are fun guys.
Well, about that.
I wouldn't go that far.
I call it serious. No, I'm not.
I just want to know how come Will didn't get a pause. Is he an honorary guest after making a statement like that?
Because you know we were thinking it. Like, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Will was like, yes, I would like to be you. So Will, let's talk about your history. Where are you from?
I grew up just north of Washington, D.C., a little town called Beltsville, Maryland. The end.
That's it.
That's it, yeah. Yeah, so, sorry.
East Coast boy?
What's that? Yeah, East Coast, pretty boring. None of the people in my family were artists at all. And I think I freaked out my parents when I, like all of us probably, right? Freaked out our parents when we said, I want to go to art school. And
they're like, where have we gone wrong?
the thing is, luckily I did so poorly in school that anything was a step above, you know?
They were just happy.
They were just happy. They were like, you're going to go to college?
Are you going to go? You're still going to go? Oh.
Yeah.
Your parents look at each other. They're like, well, he knows his colors.
Are you giving high fives? He's going. Yes.
And that was the truth. I mean, it's funny, but that was the truth.
So what do they think about you now?
I think that I exceeded their expectations a little bit. Yeah. You know, I mean, it was funny because the first job that the first real illustration gig I got, I was actually living with my parents, and you know, I wasn't quite in the basement, but I had my old bedroom back, you know, and I got a job from Psychology Today, and my dad got the fax was coming through, and he could not believe it, you know. Do you guys even know what Psychology Today is?
Yeah.
Remember magazines? You remember?
Oh, those things.
And he was like, "You're really an illustrator? Like these guys want you to do an illustration for them?" And I'm like, "Yeah." How did they know to call you? And I'm like, "Because I asked them to. I went in there and showed my portfolio." And they're like, and then he's like, "Did other people go in there and show their portfolio too?"
That's the nicest way of being like, man, you are good.
That's very supportive.
That was like a heat check. Like, okay, so they're gonna
right. Do they let everybody do this? Or?
He's like, son, and you went against other people?
Fifth graders, what's going on?
Yeah, that's about it. And then things started to happen. I mean, things were a lot easier, I think, in the early '90s and mid '90s, as far as getting editorial freelance work. You know, I mean, when I was in school, they were like, "It's going to be impossible. You're not going to be able to do it." You know, maybe one of you will make it, or something like that. You know, and I think that the biggest reason why more people didn't do it is because they were scared off from it, and I found it pretty easy. Even though if you saw the early work, it was horrible. You know. Luckily, at that time, the editorial market was looking for kind of horrible, primitive work, so my stuff just kind of fit right in there, you know.
Well, why was it hard though? What's about the editorial industry? Was it because they get illustrated and just stick with that one person, and it's hard to break in?
It wasn't. It wasn't that hard. It was no. There was actually a lot of magazines at that time, and there was a lot of work. I think that a lot of people just didn't really know how to go get. I mean, it's a lot to when we're programmed to get a job, right? Like that's why we went to junior high and high school and then college. Was the programming that at the end of this, somebody's going to just hire you, and you're going to end up with that job. And I think it's a hard sell for students to say, you need to on your own go and take this portfolio around to a bunch of people who aren't going to care, and then maybe one of them down the road will hire you to do one little job that's going to pay, $400 or $500 or something. And it's just most people weren't willing to go through what it took to go do that, I think. And so if you did back then, and your work was competent, you could get work. And I had a lot of friends that did the same thing, and their work sucked too, and they got work, you know. So anyway.
Hey, Will, let me ask you this. You were talking about how you were not a strong student in school. Elaborate on that and tell us what that's like, because I noticed that the founder of UArtsy, I can't remember his name right now, he talks about how he didn't even finish school, and it propagated him to be a great artist and to, you know, found UArtsy, which was, I think, ZBrush Workshops originally. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I think that you know, I'm a visual learner. My wife and I joke about it because, like, if I've been to some, if we've driven past something, I'll remember how to get there, based on landmarks and stuff. And she is looking for street signs, you know. And if she can't find the street signs and can't find the address through that way, she's like, we've never been here before. I'm like, we drove by here yesterday. So and she's an auditory learner, and you know, the schools are set up. Our public schools are set up for one kind of learner. They're set up for auditory learners. So when you're a visual learner like me, and I'm a big fan of Sir Ken Robinson. He gave some great TED Talks on this. If you want to look him up. I just think that we kind of ignore our visual and kinesthetic learners because it's easier to teach. It's more expensive to try to teach everybody in a different way. You know, the differentiated learning. And the funny thing is, my wife was a school teacher. I even taught high school for a couple years. And if you talk to teachers, they get really defensive about this. They say, we do differentiated learning. You know, we do all that. It's still heavily biased towards the auditory learner. And so if you fit into that mold, you're going to do great, you know, and then you can come out of there and go into college. I think it's funny because it self-perpetuates itself, you know. The people that did good in school go to college, and then they get a degree, and then they go back and teach school. So the people that are in school don't understand people like me, and probably some of you guys too, right?
Yeah.
I'm hoping there's safety in numbers here.
No, you're right on point. I did my master's on teaching with technology, and one of the things we talked about was the different modes of learning that are absolutely ignored and not even addressed, and so you leave at least 1/3 of the population out in the cold to die and say, figure it out on your own. And oftentimes those are the very creative people, the people who offer a lot of things that were ignored, but just because the learning style didn't work with them, they were kicked out, disenfranchised. And so I agree with you. I went through similar things too. So,
have you ever seen some of the beautiful tattoos that are done in prison? You know, and I always wonder, like, those kids are so artistic, the ones that, you know, that got left out and got told that they weren't good, they weren't as valuable as these other students. And so did that cause them to take a path that ended them up in prison, and there they are doing this beautiful artwork and not getting any recognition for it, you know?
There's a lot of truth to that, because you do have a group of people that are misunderstood, and the studies are now coming out that people do learn in different ways, and science is proving every day that just people learn in different ways, and people are, you know, different drugs affect different people in different ways. So you can't approach every student in just like a topical way.
Yeah.
All of them learn differently. Different people are motivated different ways. And then there's just some people that are going to be good at math.
Like my son, who I just don't understand. Like he's like, I love math, and I'm like, I don't know whether to be happy about that or no. I'm happy about it. You know, then the school's working for you. You need to take advantage of it, you know, because it's free and you're good at it, you know.
Did he pick up a lot of things easily? Then
he's helping all the other students. He's one of the kids, the math kids, you know, and it's like he didn't get that from my wife. He didn't get that from me.
Uh-oh.
I know.
Hashtag long. Hey, listen. So Will,
some of the neighbors.
Hey, Will, tell that story you were saying about how you were calling your son when he was at work. That was pretty funny.
That's a great thing.
Yeah. So he just got this is my youngest, and he's 16. He got his first job at Papa John's Pizza, and we're pranksters, you know, in our family. It'd probably take it too far. My wife is the only non-prankster, you know. So anyway, I called him up and I thought I have a 50-50 chance because he told me that he's answering the phones and his friend got him the job, and so he says it'll either be me or Ian on the phone. And so he answers, Seth speaking, and I'm like, oh, bingo, I got him, you know. So I started complaining about a pizza that was ordered, you know. I said, what's wrong with you guys? You get my pizza wrong every stinking time, you know. And he's like, oh, I'm really sorry. He couldn't tell it was me. I thought he was gonna bust me right away, you know. And he couldn't tell. He's like, I'm really sorry about that, you know. And then I was like, I changed my voice a little bit and kept on with it, and I just started saying, you know. I says it's one thing to mess up one pizza, but every freaking time, you know, you're getting my pizzas wrong. And he just goes, I'm gonna let you talk to my manager. I'm like, no, Seth, hold on. And he still didn't know it was me. He's like, oh, okay, this is a crank call, you know.
Yeah, he was probably so focused on doing a good job, he wasn't even thinking about it.
No, but the funny thing is I put that on Facebook, and it was like 50-50. Half the people were like pissed at me for doing that. They're like,
what? That's awesome. You did a good job as a father. Never forget it. You did a great job.
Keep him on his toes.
So let's talk about your Photoshop, or not just your Photoshop, but your creative process. How do you start?
You know, that's a good question. I'm very assignment oriented. You know, it's funny because I tried to do some gallery work for like 3 or 4 weeks, you know, and then I realized I didn't have anything to say, you know, like I don't have the mind of a gallery artist, I guess, because I couldn't. Everything I was trying to do, I was trying to put a story in, and there, and the people that I was showing it to were like, no, that's more like illustration, you know, and I was going to do this along with illustration. And so I gave that up pretty quick. But I need an assignment, so that's the first thing I do. And so,
does it help you focus?
It does, and I think it helps give me. If I can get a good idea, I can run with it. If I don't know where I'm going with it, nothing really happens. And so like that one right there, you know. I just had the idea just popped into my head. Like, what if I was always looking for things to throw on Facebook to have fun with. I think Facebook is so fun just to throw stuff out there and get an idea. And then I was like, oh, I could go out to the car and pretend like I'm William Shatner trying to overact and bust out of that. Anyway, that one there was this face here was a demo that I did down at BYU, and I started it in acrylics, and I just drew the character up. But the ironic thing is that this image actually helped me land the big pharmaceutical job that I'm working on now. So it's and that's another thing that I talked about on my vlog was basically that you've got to give. Giving is an essential part of your growth, and it seems like when you give, things come back to you. You know, it's that whole universe kind of a thing. You know? Mm-hmm. And so you give a little, and then usually something good happens because of it. I find a lot of people are cut themselves off from a lot of opportunity because they're like, well, if I'm not getting paid, then I'm not going to do it. And I think that's limited in your thinking. I also don't think you should get taken advantage of all the time too. And there's definitely people out there looking to always take advantage of you, and you've got to be smart. But when an opportunity comes where you can help someone else out, I think that sometimes that's a good thing to do.
Awesome. When you go into one of these projects, do you start with pencils or do you go right on to the Wacom?
A lot of them start on my iPad. So this one started on my iPad. I did this for our creative composition class at svslearn.com, and basically just rough out the ideas. And the reason I do that, quite simply, is because it's more fun to sit in the recliner and watch TV and doodle than it is. I can only sit at my desk so long.
Parents are gonna call.
Do you have one of those special iPad stylus.
No,
like
you know
use,
what?
or what are you using?
I just used I did I did a YouTube video that I think pissed people off because I said I found the perfect stylus. You know, it was the title of the video
Mm-hmm.
because I knew that that would draw people in, and it's this cheap Targus stylus that you get at Staples, the cheapest one.
Oh,
And,
okay.
but the reason for that is because it's got that blunt tip,
Mm-hmm.
and people complain about the blunt tip, but I think that you know, when you go into figure drawing, you draw with a piece of chalk, and the bigger instrument helps you focus on the big shapes and not focus on the details right away. You know, and so that's why I was saying it's a better tool. What I should have finished that off with is a better tool to start with, but then yeah, if you're going to try to finish stuff, you want maybe one of those fancy pressure sensitive, fakey pressure sensitive ones.
Hey, Will, I want to get back to your education really quickly because I know there's some things that you talk about in your podcast that I'd like to hear you talk about today. Were you the best artist in your class?
Absolutely not. There was always somebody better than me, all the time. From junior high, I could tell you his name was Neil Ashby, and he was 10 times better than me. When I was in college, it was Alan Brockbank.
Wow.
And when I was in college, I even almost got kicked out of the program there at BYU. So they had a portfolio review from the sophomore year to the junior year, and you had to make the cut, and they cut 50% of the sophomore students out. Couldn't take illustration, and I made it on probation. So there's 2 of us out of 20 that made it on probation, and a couple of the students never let me forget that, which was kind of neat, you know, as a motivator, right?
Did you by chance keep in contact with those guys you just mentioned? Like, do you have any idea if they're doing anything art related for a career now?
I don't know about Neil, the guy from junior high and high school, but Alan Brockbank was a art director for Fall Line, the sister studio to Avalanche out here in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
And
yeah. The only reason I ask is I had the same experience as you. You know, I remember people that I looked up to in junior high and high school that, like, I can still see some of their art now, and it's probably completely inaccurate to what it actually looked like, but in my head it looked so good. And I looked up a couple of them recently just on Facebook just to see what they're doing, and like none of them are in the art field, and I was bummed, you know, like I so wanted for them to have continued into this. And maybe they're doing it for fun, maybe it's not professional, but it's sort of funny how you kind of make up other people's destinies for them just based on, you know, them being like a 13-year-old or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I've thought about it a lot, actually. You know, you have those experiences early on that kind of shape who you are and your kind of worldview. And I've always wondered what happened to Neil, but I lost touch.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But Alan, and I saw him last year, and he was doing a plein air painting up at Robert Redford's place, Sundance, which is really close to my house up here. And beautiful painting. I mean, once you have it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that guy is just amazing.
Wow.
So.
Cool.
So do you think, this is a question that always pops up on this podcast, and I'm sure you've probably had to address this. So probably as quickly as possible, do you think to be a successful artist you need to go to art school?
That's a good one. No, you definitely don't. But I think it's really good for some people, and I think that you know, anybody could name. We can all name really successful artists that didn't go, but I personally think that I wouldn't be where I am at all right now if I hadn't gone. You know, I needed to be hanging around with other artists that were doing things. I don't think I was self-motivated enough back then, which is kind of funny because I don't have that problem at all right now. But back then I kind of needed to see where I fit in the food chain, even in that small little pond, to go, okay, I need to work really hard. I needed that. And the other question that I get asked a lot is, can you do it online instead of going to a traditional art school? Do you want me to elaborate on that one?
Yeah, please do.
Please.
Especially since you're an online instructor, you can talk about that experience as well.
Yeah, there are some pros and cons, and I wouldn't have predicted, without having done it, I wouldn't have predicted my answer. Having taught now for a couple years online, there are definite advantages and definite disadvantages. And to start off, I think art school has the advantage of gathering people in a physical location, and ironically, charging them insane amounts of money gets the parents kind of fired up, to make sure, like, and check up on them and see what they're doing, and if they're taking out loans, if they're actually thinking about paying off those loans, hopefully that's a motivator too. And the funny thing is, the irony to that is that you have to kick yourself in the teeth and pay all that money in order to have that motivation, right? Because I think that a lot of schools, I'll hear a lot of times, well, we learned more in your class or in one of your little online classes than I did in 4 years of art school. And I've heard that a bunch of times. Now, that's not to say that that's going to be everybody's experience, because there are tons of amazing teachers in art schools. But there's also a lot of bad ones. And one of the unfortunate things that you get when you go to a school is you don't get the opportunity to pick your teacher. And so it's funny because I teach at the university at UVU right now part-time, and when I go down there, my experience with students is completely different than my experience online. When I go to UVU, I get a new class, and I would say at least half of them don't know who I am, and they've just been kind of thrown in there. It's a class they have to take, and so they're looking at me going, well, you're obviously a local, which means you obviously suck, and you don't know what you're doing, and that's, and I actually like that because I have to earn their respect, and I think that's really cool that I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to tell them, hey, guess what, I'm actually somebody who does this for a living. They'll find out over time, and hopefully through the teaching they'll value that. But they don't care about me, and a lot of them don't really care about art. They're just kind of in there, versus online, people are coming to it and paying, even if they're paying a lot less online, it's real money because they're not getting a student loan. So it hurts, if they're paying, a few $100s even, to them, that's a huge commitment. And they're gung-ho, they're fired up, they're ready to go. So it's interesting, the different type of student. Another difference would be that when I go to school, I'm often limited by technology. Our school doesn't have the most fancy equipment. We have a lot of Cintiq monitors, but not in every classroom. So sometimes I'll get a class with one at the podium. Sometimes I won't. When I don't, I feel like I've just stepped back in time, and it's really tough to do drawovers and to critique people's students' work when you're used to slapping on your Cintiq monitor and just going to town, and you can accomplish stuff really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That's an advantage that we have online, is I'm using the same equipment that I'm drawing on for my freelance all day, and then I jump into class and just keep going, and there's no and then when you go down to school, it's like, well, this stylus isn't working, or just all kinds of little quirks. They've got antiquated computers that take forever to boot up and stuff like that, and so yeah, I don't think that I don't think you can say one is better than the other. Online, another advantage might be that if you're living in an area of the world where you don't have access to an art school close by, then for a lot of people they wouldn't be able to go to art school. So online gives them the opportunity to at least get close to that experience. Other people have time restrictions, where they're working during the day, so the only time they have is at night, and the classes that they want in art school aren't offered at night, and things like that. And so I think we have some advantages, but I think probably the biggest disadvantage we have is creating that online community of people that are committed to each other, friends. And I tell my students at UVU, you're paying this money, and one of the things that you probably don't realize you're paying for is friends. You know, the people sitting around you, and if you're putting your headphones in, you're cutting yourself off of half of your education, and yet the same ones with headphones will keep them in. You know. I'll tell them, like, I keep in touch with a half dozen of the people that I went to school with. I've gone into business with a few of them. We critique each other's work. We stay in touch. We have this support group.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds a little needy, but
yeah, no, I agree with you. That's the thing that I always say was most valuable from my education was my peers just pushing me, or just being able to learn from people and having that sort of competitive edge. That's just kind of how I worked. But
the irony of that is that we all went to school together, and that's how we all know each other.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that's what I asked earlier. I wanted to know. Okay,
we were setting you up, Will Terry. We were setting you up.
You guys have some history.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Carlos is the old man. Then it's Tyrus. Then it's me.
For a long
Patrick, and Jack's the baby.
Yeah, and then I mean, just as an example, just starting this podcast, we were able to reach out to, Patrick is a professional motion designer. Iris is a professional illustrator. Still trying to figure out what Charlie does. I'm kidding. Charlie is a.
I knew it. I knew it. I was just waiting for it.
Charlie's been working. He's been working in the game industry for a long time. Jack has been working with special effects. We know people, at Disney, at DreamWorks, at Leo Burnett in Chicago. So, our I think that there's a small sweet spot when we were all in school that all of us just kind of stayed real tight.
Mm-hmm.
And even teachers that I talk to, they'll say that there's just a small group of people that they knew were going to turn into. You just see the momentum, and yes, you can go out there and do it by yourself, but it's so much more fun. I look forward to Wednesdays now because I get to hang out with my buddies, and then I get to meet real cool people like you, Will, that are out there hustling too. So it's just like my Wednesday. And Tyrus is awesome.
I just figured out who you guys are. You guys are the ex-presidents from Point Break.
Pretty much. That's right. That's right. We're all wearing masks.
And I have to put my beer in the bun underneath the mask.
And the cool thing about it, I think too, since we had a couple more, we didn't even have room for all the people that were just kind of during that time we were all in school that was together. We wouldn't have room to fit them all in the podcast, but I think the school itself had a really good run from all the years, because I think if you think about it, with the people who are on this podcast, it was like almost year after year after year, starting back in what was it, 98?
98, yeah.
98, and then 99, and I got there in 2000. Patrick got there.
That's when things started to slow down.
No, that's when it got amazing. got all you mediocre people out of it, and they got that young talent in there. And
it's been all downhill since about 2001.
You hear that, Jack? He's just crapping all over us. And then, Jack, when did you finally graduate?
From college.
You graduated from something else?
Yeah. No, I don't know if you're talking about high school when I got there.
No, we're talking about college right now, Jack.
I got there in 02 and I graduated in 05.
05, yeah. So we can say after.
The best thing that just happened was Charlie was ripping on Jack, and Jack was like,
Yeah, he said finally. You're like, what does that mean, finally?
Don't listen to him, Jack. I like you. You gotta stay united against Cyrus.
I want to get back to your creative process, Will. So let's talk about this one here, because this one caught my eye, because it's a lot like Charlie. For those of you that are listening on the
I really hate this podcast.
there's this little kid crying because there's this dog licking his ice cream. So.
That looks nothing like me.
It does.
I felt like the troll one under the bridge. I could see myself in that one.
Will, Patrick wants you to draw him really bad.
You should draw Patrick with him.
No,
we would really like that.
Straight up from Middle Earth.
that is
Yeah.
not a request.
And then do all the special color things you do to him. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Give him all like weird pinkish-looking skin. That's great. Do it.
You know the one with the ice cream that you were looking at. It started with that mouth crying. You know, I drew the kid around that mouth.
Nice.
Just like the idea of just, you know, I mean, if you guys, I don't know how many of you guys have kids, but
I got a couple.
you know when they're unhappy, everyone's unhappy in the house, you know, and I don't know, that idea popped in. That I like doing emotion. I like doing emotion or action, and this was kind of a little bit of both, you know.
Yeah.
And I really like juxtaposition. So you know, somebody's happy, somebody's sad in the same piece, just things like that. And I kind of set out to do something like that with this one. So it was like, yeah, how can I? That was kind of the goal, was how can I make somebody happy and sad on the same action, you know? And I channeled my sisters, because I had 3 sisters, you know. I used to my method of operation there was ripping heads off the Barbie dolls, and I used to play a game whereby I would con them into letting me into their inner circle again, you know, and I promised not to rip any heads off of Barbie dolls, and then see how fast I could get kicked out again, you know.
And then you're just pleased outside the room. Like, yes.
Yeah.
Real quick, I have a cousin. When she was a kid, she used to chew the feet off of the Barbies of her sisters. So
That's right.
My aunt went through and cut up a bunch of Barbie feet and wrapped it up and gave it to my cousin for Christmas. She said, "You like it so much, it's a box."
I mean, didn't you guys all enjoy chewing on those Barbie feet? Like, no, it's just me, huh?
No, man. What's up with
You're
that
savage.
foot fetish of yours, man?
Yeah, your early fetish developing.
I tell you what, when I first realized breasts were nothing like they were on Barbie dolls, boy, was I disappointed. But continue, Will.
What?
Continue, Will.
So stupid.
How sad were you when you found out Ken wasn't?
Wait, what?
Correct. Were you sad?
What are you talking about?
Were you sad?
All right. Let's
Pause.
just move on. Let's
Pause.
move on. Fast forward.
Wait, what?
You're gonna cut that out, right?
Yeah. No, I'm just gonna let the Oculus ride.
There's some editing that's gonna happen.
So, Will, I noticed you've got a really great sense of lighting in most of these. You know, your lighting is like a huge element to how you compose your shots. And I compare that to the webcam version of you that's got a nice yellow highlight on your one side and kind of cool on the other. It all sort of makes sense. I don't know if that's intentional or not. Maybe I'm piecing that together, but it's a package deal.
I think it was a happy accident. The light just happened to be right there.
Well, it works, man.
Yeah.
He looks up. He's like, "Oh."
You know, it's funny because one of the things that I've actually tried to evolve away from is coloring everything. You know, and I got a critique from the he's famous in the children's book world. I know you guys are all coming from different worlds. David Small, does that name ring a bell to anybody? That's okay.
Mm-mm.
It's okay. He won a Caldecott, which is kind of like winning. Let's see, what would be the equivalent in animation?
A Grammy.
Yes, a Grammy.
What?
Throwback.
Right. Molly's like, what? What are you talking about? Oh my gosh, that's the worst.
Humor is a
Roll out.
just
Well,
Charlie's like, Optimus Prime makes children's books?
For those of you who don't know what we're laughing at, go back to episode 4, I believe it is. You'll understand.
Well, so anyway, he gave me. I asked for a critique. He said, "Do you really want a critique?" I said, "Yeah." And then he looked at me really serious and he said, "I've offended a lot of people when I give them a critique because I don't pull any punches. You know, are you sure you want a critique? Because I'll tell you exactly." And this was just 5 years ago.
Wow.
And and I had I'm feeling pretty good about my work, so I'm like, yeah. I was in front of students when this happened too, so I was like,
oh,
sure,
man.
go ahead and critique my work. Don't do it like right here, right now, And so he took one of my picture books, and about a week later he called me up, and he says, do you want to talk about it? Do you still want to critique? I said, yeah. And he said, I have one question for you. Why do you use so much damn color on every page, on every part of the illustration? And I was like, oh, that's it? That's all you got, And and I'm thinking, because I like color, And he goes, when you go to a movie, do you want like the action to start right in the beginning, kind of like
Mad
Road,
Max,
right? Yeah, Mad Max. Do you want it to go that way from the beginning to the end with no relief? And I'm like, be kind of cool, but no, there needs to be some relief. And he's like, well, you're not giving your viewer any relief. And man, that was what I needed to hear, to pull back sometimes. He's like, you're at 10, there's no place to go. You need to show more importance, more focus, more excitement, more explosion, for lack of, not in children's books, but the equivalent thereof, a baby crying.
That's interesting. Yeah, like I noticed in that one piece that was like a salamander or something on the edge of a rock.
Yeah.
Like the bottom of it kind of fades off, like the color and stuff, and it really gives your eye somewhere to go. Like you start at the bottom and you see it sort of reveal itself. I'm guessing that's part of that.
It is, and that came right from him. Another piece that was that you showed earlier was the kid that we talked about that's sitting on the tree branch, and there's all those animals around, and the only warm spot is right on that kid. Mm-hmm. Everything else fades to cool colors, and that was kind of his advice. Is and looking at other people's artwork, I'm a big fan of David Catrow. I don't know if you know his stuff at all. I'm a children's book guy. I'm gonna throw out those names, but he's really good at letting it's colorful, but it splashes of color where it matters in the focal point areas. He's really directing where he wants you to look, and I wasn't doing that. I was like, I'm just having fun with color. I can make everything colorful for color's sake, and just having fun with it because it looks cool. And there was no emphasis. There was no focus.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily taking it out. You just kind of changed up your palette a little bit so that you had some variation more.
Yeah, just be a little bit more selective with it.
When he critiqued your work, did you tell him, I'm Will Terry, do you know who I am? Did you tell him who the fuck you were? Or did you let it slide?
You
thought about it, didn't you? You thought about it.
No, man, he's let it slide, and he's going to come back around. He's still waiting for the right moment to strike.
Here's the truth. You go through a stage where have you ever heard of that thing where it's unconscious incompetence, unconscious competence, conscious uncompetence, and then conscious competence? Have you heard of that?
No, but I feel a little bit smarter. Continue, please.
Okay, so basically, and I'm going to get the order wrong, but basically it's the idea that when you start, like let's say you start playing racquetball, because I know racquetball because I play racquetball. The first day you go in and play racquetball, you suck, and you suck, right? You're no good at it. What do you? So you're no good at it, and this is any sport or any discipline that you want to do.
Except for soccer. Everybody's good at soccer. But go ahead, continue.
Maybe the 10th time you go, you're better than your crappy friends, So now you start feeling like you've got game, and you're in that second zone, which is really dangerous because you're stupid enough to think that you're good, but you have nothing going on at all. You've played 10 times or 50 times, and that's what happens to us. I think we go through that stage where we start to really think we're good, and we buy into our own crap, And that's where I was when I got that critique. I had been doing it for a long time, but I was buying into my own crap, believing that I was somebody that I wasn't, you know. And I needed to be knocked down. And that's hard. And amongst professionals, it's really hard to get a critique because, you know, you don't want to know the truth because it means change, and change is not fun. It's not exciting because it means hard work is coming, you know.
Well, Will, let me give you another alternative next time. If someone's critiquing your work, you just simply, when he finished, say "Google me" and hang up the phone. I just want to drop that on your lap as an option. You just say "Google me" and then hang up. And hang up like we hang up phones this way, right? But then you hang up the phone, okay?
Or step off. Step off. That's it.
I have a question, and this can be posed to the rest of the group also. That was a really great critique that he gave you, but like with professionals, would you say that sometimes that's kind of like a stylistic choice that you were doing in the beginning, the way you were doing your color, and if it was working, was it? It's good that you changed, but was it also okay to have it the way it was? I mean, it was a good point that he made, but how much of it's like opinion and what
subjective?
I don't really know how to answer that question. That's a really good question because the Will Terry now would do the books that I've done differently. There's a lot of changes that I would make today, and I'd feel right about it. And other people, you know, the audience might not respond as well. So, you know, I have to be honest about that too, knowing that you know, we evolve. I'm not going to name names, but there was an artist who's very famous. He's an illustrator that died, I think 5 or 10 years ago, and he. I guess I could.
Yeah, he's dead. Will, talk about him.
Okay. Arnold Freeberg.
Stop yelling at the
Does that name ring a bell? Arnold Freeberg. He did. You can bring him up. He did. He did a lot of. Can you bring stuff up on?
Carlos, bring it up.
Bring it up right now.
Arnold, and it's FRIBERG, I think.
He does those real like epic scenery ones, right?
Yeah, George Washington on Bended Knee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did a lot of the stuff for the Ten Commandments with Cecil B. DeMille and stuff like that.
Carlos,
but anyway,
now. Sweet.
Oh yeah, this guy's amateur as fuck, huh? No, this is epic.
No, that's not it.
No, this is epic. I mean, this dude's legit, obviously.
Carlos, take over the screen, buddy.
Yeah, show us.
I did.
He did.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Is it
just go to Google Images.
Images. Come on.
There you go.
That Ten Commandments one.
You don't know what's going to show up.
That George Washington. Everybody knows that one. Hit that George Washington, the fourth one over. With the horse. Yeah. Everybody's seen
Make it bigger, Carlos.
Pause.
What?
Control plus.
There you go. No, he gave a lecture, and this is when he was like 90. He was probably like 140 years old or something. I don't know. But he gave this lecture, and I was there, and he had a painting veiled. You know, he had it behind the veil. So, and he's like, and I'm going to get to this painting and show you guys, you know. And so he's withholding the evidence, you know, and we're just drooling because we can't wait to see this new painting that nobody's ever seen before. And it was a letdown. You know, it was really not up to what he had done in the past.
Wow.
And I thought, I don't want that to ever happen to me. What causes that? You know, is it some George Lucas going on, where you buy into your own? You know what I mean? I don't know, but the guy's phenomenal, but he still put out a piece that, I mean, and like everybody there was really let down. But if you put a painting behind a veil, it better be like dynamite, right?
It better be amazing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So how would you stop it? That seems like it'd be terrifying.
Being a fan of Picasso before he went to Africa, and Picasso was painting, you know, very realistic stuff, and then he goes to like North Africa, and then he started being influenced by all the art that was happening there. He came back and started drawing very abstractly. Imagine if he had one of those paintings under a veil.
Yeah.
And then like eye is over here in a square, and then her other eye is over there in a circle.
Just saw my friend's one last year you did. Was amazing. What is this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone told me I needed to use better shapes.
That's kind of scary. Like, how do you bow out? Because that's almost saying like retire. You know,
Yeah.
like. But knowing when, and as artists, you're not going to do that. You know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want that to happen to me, but I think humility is a good thing, and I think you can always get a critique. You don't have to always listen to what someone's saying, but I think hearing it, and kind of just letting it sink in and questioning is a good thing. It's a healthy thing to do. And when you look at some of the old masters and what they were able to accomplish, at least for me, I realize that I have no commitment level like some of the greats that spent every waking moment doing this without the aids that we have of Google Images for reference and digital monitors and everything that and that afford us a lot of extra downtime. And you take a Caravaggio and you realize like what he accomplished by the age of 30, and I realize I don't really have anything to walk around and be that arrogant about. I mean, there's people that have dedicated their lives a heck of a lot more than I have. So I guess by saying that and admitting that, I can be then more open to suggestion, and
So here's a question: at what point, as artists, can we say, let's say, okay, we've been in the industry for 30 or 40 years, we're 90 years old, right, and you're still doing art. When can you take those chances and do what you want to do that doesn't, or maybe won't translate well to everybody else, but it's just what you want to do, right? So the guy you were using as an example, and he did this painting and he unveiled it. Like, how much does he have to produce for everybody else before he can just produce for himself? Like, so where's that balance happening in your head?
Yeah, that's a good one too. I think for him, at that time, he had switched from Illustrator to gallery work, so the stuff that he was doing was just going straight into a gallery. And to be fair to Mr. Freeberg, I mean, like the stuff that he had done in the same year and was phenomenal. Like he had shown some other images that he had done in the previous few years for galleries, and they were blowing us away. For some reason, he didn't know not to pick that crappy one that he brought that night. Maybe that was the only one that he had that was new that no one had seen, and so that's why he was like, well, unveil. I don't know. But for me, one of my goals is to work hard enough with the things that are paying the bills and the businesses that I'm working in to be able to make enough money to afford me the time to basically just do what I want. And I've had some of that already. Like being able to work on images for these. I'm going to start doing some fan art for Comic-Cons just because it's just fun. And I just did a podcast on that last night or 2 nights ago. Anyway,
that was 2 nights ago.
Yeah, and the thing about that for me is it's relaxing. Like and I'm sure you guys are the same way, but like I get to a point where I just have to create something for me. Something that I am happy with. And when you get in that zone and you're working on something and it's 2 or 3 in the morning, and it's you don't have to get it done, but things are working out so well, you just don't want to go to bed, And those are the moments that I'm striving to find, because that's when life is good, And then you're excited because you're going to let other people see it and they're going to react to it and all that, and that's all part of it. I guess it's our vain side, right? That we want to show it off and share it with the world, There's some projects all of us have been on where it doesn't come with that at all. You work really hard, and at the end of the day, you don't want anyone to see it because it's been art directed, it's been committed, it's been hammered out, and it's not art anymore, And so I guess my advice to people is that if you are in a job where you're doing art and you can't show it to anybody, or you're not gonna brag about it or put it on Facebook or put it in your portfolio. You've got to find time to be working on personal work. I've known way too many artists that have atrophied and ended up just getting out of the business because they lost that love and feeling for art. You know, they just kind of really they just stopped, and it just got old for them, and they didn't want to create anymore. And maybe, you know, I've actually had a couple friends that said maybe I was never an artist in the beginning, you know, and I can't answer that for them. You know, I have a couple artist friends that just stopped and started doing something totally different after they had a career in art, you know.
Yeah.
I can almost 100% promise you that's not going to happen for me just because I love creating so much, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
About technology, about today's technology, is it's really easy to get out there and create a book or make a drawing, set it out there, and see what people think about it, and then kind of like what you were talking about, you're always progressing, always trying to be better at it, and you continuously create. And I've gone out and I've bought a couple people's sketchbooks that they've taken and they've digitized and put together in an ebook. You know, there's so many different ways to work on little projects for yourself, to fine tune your art.
Oh yeah, the opportunities today are there's so many that you're not gonna. If you want to do it, if you can dream it up, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned earlier on how you're very assignment driven. So like what is a Will Terry personal project? What is it that if you didn't have to answer to anybody, where do you see your work going?
So right now I'm ready to get ready for these conventions. That's kind of where I'm putting my personal work. But I'm also a children's book.
We turned Will into a robot.
I did it. I transferred it.
Yes.
I transferred my.
Am I not showing up now?
Wow. Jack,
All right, Will, you
that's
have to
hardcore.
log off and log back on.
I did it.
Okay.
The curse of Jack.
That is like.
I killed Will Terry.
That's impressive, Jack.
Oh,
that is
man.
impressive that you've transferred. You're like, all right, go.
But to talk about some of his personal projects while he gets back on, Will has, I counted just now, like 31 children's books.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of them.
Wow.
And they all look, almost all of them are fantastic artistically. I mean, they're just amazing books. This guy's super talented. He's modest. He's really, really talented. He's back. He's a jerk. Take back everything nice I said.
So we were talking about some of your personal projects, and I was talking about the 31 books that you've made and published. Yeah. Are all of those your books, or did you just do illustrations?
Yes, I did the illustrations and a couple of books, story apps, and the story apps I kind of wrote. I kind of took the idea for the story and then collaborated. Is everything going around?
Jack, you have to leave and come back. Somehow you cursed Will, and now he's a robot every time he talks. So if Jack leaves and comes back, it should go away.
Okay.
He sounds like he's calling in like a ransom or something. You know what I mean? Like with like a voice modulator.
Yeah. It's like it's assistant.
$1,000 under the children's book in the library.
You go out and come back again?
Yeah, try one more time.
Okay.
Sure. Totally close the browser.
And then Jack, you do the same thing and come back, because it's always usually you.
Tyrus really wants you to leave, Jack. Jack, please leave. It's so messed up.
All right, he's back.
Okay. So, is that any better?
Oh.
Yep.
hard. It was going so well.
The internet doesn't want us to talk. So
It's like Simon Says.
all over again.
He got bit by that dog. He was just talking about that one time that we were struggling with trying to keep people on the show.
Mm-hmm.
He was teasing me about it, and
And the internet was like, "Watch this at the perfect time." That was
yeah.
a really good question. Please answer.
Okay, everybody should just log off and log back on to see if it fixes it. Should just do that automatically in the future.
Yep. Let's just start with you, Tyrus. Log off.
I just did. El Stupido. Pay attention.
Can you do it again?
That's stupid for Spanish. Or
Right.
Spanish
You're
for
learning. You're learning, my Cuban friend.
Hey, Will.
Hey, is it any better?
Yes.
Ooh. It got better when Jack left. All right, go ahead.
I don't think it's better. I think he's in and out.
Not better now.
Yeah, he's.
See, it wasn't me. Tyrus.
Oh, you know what? The week before last, it was Carlos. Carlos, log off and log back on.
He can't.
We're live.
Because we'll be live. He shut the whole thing down.
Internet affect Will.
So no good, huh?
Yay!
Yeah.
Oh.
You're sounding better.
Okay.
No, I'm watching his thumbnail. He's like going away.
Yeah, his thumbnail's in and out.
Yeah.
Well, we might have to do a part 2 with the great Will Terry.
We'll just keep you coming back.
Who's over there streaming a movie, Will, at your house?
Right.
Who's watching the show on the other screen? I don't know what's going on.
Oh, speaking of which, I want to talk about something related to that.
What's up?
I'll save it for later, but
I know what you're going to talk about.
yeah, I bet you do.
Let's do it.
Let's do it now while Will's fixing his mic. Let's go!
Is right now good?
Yeah.
What is
Okay.
it? Go ahead.
So speaking of shitty internet connections,
Yeah, speaking of GDF and the internet, Chicago, where I guess only a couple of us now live,
You're going to open this
is
room.
instituting a 9% tax on streaming services. So it's going to be built into your Netflix, to your Spotify, to a bunch of other different streaming services, where you're going to have to pay an extra 9% tax
Only when you
on
stream,
top
though.
of everything.
Only when you stream, not if you download the show or whatever.
Charlie,
So
what did I say? Netflix and Spotify. Those are my two examples.
Yeah.
Those you stream.
we're not talking about your little bootleg website.
What are you
We're talking about legitimate businesses.
Now, you know you can download your shows off of Netflix also, right? Without streaming them.
I did not know that.
I don't
Okay.
know.
My
What
wife,
are you talking about, Charlie?
we just bought Netflix like yesterday. We just got it like yesterday.
Time you go to talk about Charlie.
Well, like a lot of times you're wrong, Carlos. So I just let you slide.
Charlie, wait, time out. You just said you could download shows off Netflix.
Yeah, you can download them so you can watch, so you're not streaming them
What do you mean?
How?
locally. Like I
This
just
sounds like a load of.
Right, what are you
look
talking
it up.
about,
I
Charlie?
just
You have to go to a special site where it says
No,
give me the URL and
I
then it
just
shows you
talked
a
to my wife
movie
about
and then you
this.
download it.
because she watches them. Because she was telling me that, and this is one of the reasons why.
Charlie, are you
we
talking
picked it
about
up.
Comcast cable that you can download? You
No, I'm
can't.
not talking about the Xfinity one because
What?
it's similar. I'm not talking about that one.
So, Charlie, I'm on Netflix right now. How
Me
exactly
too.
are you downloading
I
episodes?
don't know.
on
I just
Netflix?
got to
Wake your wife up. It won't be the first time. Wake her up and ask her right now. Right now,
No,
turn
I'm
around
not
and ask her
waking-
how to
no, I'm not gonna
download.
wake her
Right,
up.
because you just made this up,
I
Charlie.
didn't make it
You
up. I
cannot
seriously didn't make
download
it up.
episodes from Netflix. Unbelievable. You're a liar.
What's the other thing I just read today? Because it was talking about this with the same thing Patrick was talking about with the article. Because they were saying it's only affecting. Because they only mentioned Netflix and Spotify in the article too. So there's
No,
like it's
because
only the 9%.
there's
It's called,
plenty of. It's on The Verge. It's on a bunch of different websites. But
So when
no,
your wife goes
those are the example.
Does it bounce her to piratebay.org?
Yeah,
No one uses that anymore. Old man.
that's what I'm saying. Because I just did a search for Netflix download movies, and the only thing that come up are like software that rips them.
Charlie.
All right, so let's take a vote. All who think Charlie just lied, say aye.
I didn't lie.
Aye.
All who think Charlie might be telling the truth say nay.
Okay. Look it up.
But regardless,
what-
that'll
so-
apply to, you know.
So I didn't really follow what exactly was their logic. Why they're taxing streaming and not general broadband, traffic. I don't understand.
They call it something. It was something like in my head. I related it to like a almost like a entertainment tax. Like
They called it amusement tax.
amusement tax. That's right.
But if you download, it's not amusement. Like that doesn't make any sense.
They made it a preference to say it in the article that I read about this today. Yeah.
Is
I
that
don't know if they're trying to do this to soften the blow or whatever, but they were just saying this is another way for them to grab money.
Yeah,
without
essentially that's all it is. It's another way to tax us. That's all it is.
property tax or whatever
It's like
else.
if you look at your cell phone bill and look at all of these imaginary taxes that you have to pay. So if your bill's $125, when you're done, it's like $185 because of state taxes. It's crazy. And
It's
so now
crazy.
they found a way to tax the internet in a different way. So even on your regular internet bill, they tax the crap out of you. And now it's, oh yeah, if you're streaming, we're going to tax you even more. For what?
They said there's a law firm downtown that said this might not hold water based off of a couple other bills that are already or laws already in place. So, but that would be down the line though, and it's still going into like effect.
Chicago, but there's been a long track record of crooks running the show there. Another way. This is just another way. First, it was they were selling votes to the Democratic Party. Then they sold all the rights to the parking meters.
Biggest ripoff in Chicago history is the meters, the parking meters. Yeah.
You guys voted
Absolutely ridiculous. And now that they did that, now they want to go ahead and they want to tax internet, and that's a neat.
Yeah, I guess the article that I read said something about they talked with Netflix representative about it, and Netflix's standpoint was, yeah, we've already got a system in place that if you live in Chicago, we're just going to bill you for it, and then they pay the city the tax or whatever.
But they said also that it's going to be based off jurisdictions also, and this is going to happen in other places anyway. It just hasn't yet.
That was the other thing. They said they've had to figure it out because it's coming to a lot more places than just Chicago. So they already did the legwork for it.
We're people who are being taxed to death.
Yep.
As a society, we're just being taxed to death because it doesn't cost more money. So what are they taxing us for?
For entertainment, because look at you get charged out the wazoo if you smoke cigarettes. You get charged out the wazoo if you're drinking booze. Anything that makes you forget about reality, they want to tax because everyone wants to escape reality. So now,
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense because you're already paying and being taxed on your internet provider. It's like going to the magazine shop. You get charged for the magazine, and then each article you want to read, they want to tax you on each article.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah,
what
depending on how popular an article is, you get taxed for that too. Yeah.
yeah. Well, there you go.
Well, hey, man, Jack, keep your mouth shut. That might be the next level. That might be coming. Don't give me any ideas.
Yeah, they said that the expansion of the amusement tax.
Speaking of getting taxed for streaming, Will Terry, he has a streaming educational service.
Don't watch it. You're gonna get taxed.
Yes, sbslearn.com.
Am I back?
Yes.
You are
You're
back.
back.
I was trying to transition. I just got a bunch of guys who are upset that
You know what it might have been? My kids were on Xbox playing, online, and my wife is watching a movie, and the dog was using his iPad, and
Your dad is like,
and out of all of that, no one in that whole entire house was downloading any shows from Netflix.
Yeah, take that, Charlie.
Yeah. I did call it though. I said somebody was watching a movie over there.
Yes, you probably did. So, Will, you're an online instructor.
yeah. So a little history on that. This is svslearn.com is Rev 3, and the first one was on my personal site, willterry.com. I had a student, I was making these speed paintings and just putting them out there when everybody was making speed paintings, and putting them on YouTube. And one of my students said, that it's fun, but like I can't learn anything from it. If you would just do like a voiceover and talk about it, and I'd buy it, And it was just like the light bulb went off, kind of a thing. And it's interesting because at that time we had just learned that my wife came down with autoimmune disease, and she was progressively kind of getting a little bit worse and a little bit worse. And she's nice and stabilized now, but she couldn't teach school anymore. So we were losing that income, and I was scrambling. I was looking for something to make up the difference, or at least some of the difference. And so yeah, I put some tutorials on my website. Those did really well, and then that got me thinking bigger. And so then started Folio Academy, and that went really well. But then we realized that we weren't giving any feedback. We weren't giving any critiques. We weren't nurturing a community or anything like that. So SVS Learn is really the lessons that I've learned along the way in what it seems like our students really want. And today we just launched our subscription service. So instead of paying $300 for a children's book class, people can get it for as low as $9 a month.
You do that after I pay $200 and buy a package. Thanks, Will.
Didn't I tell you not to?
No, you told me. We'll talk about that later. That was a critique conversation we were talking about. You said hold off on the critique. Remember, that was the conversation.
Oh, I thought no.
It's okay. We're not good friends or anything. Don't worry about it. I'm a nobody. My last name isn't Terry. I understand.
Iris Terry does have a good ring to it, though.
You bring up a good point though, because we did really worry that we were going to piss off people by doing that. And then we tried to figure out like how to transition, and there just wasn't any good.
I got a couple ideas. You can give refunds or credits. I mean, there's something off the top of my head. Hey, in the last 30 days, if you spent over $200 and you happen to be black, we have a program for you. Simply send us your email, and we will give you credit for the rest of the year. Just something.
Send us an email with a little a friendly little email that makes us laugh, and we'll figure something out. Okay?
All right.
Wait, do a little dance real quick, and maybe we'll get you one.
So yeah, but one of the biggest reasons why we wanted to move to that subscription was we had a lot of students. In fact, sometimes I get asked to Skype into other teachers' classrooms, and then at the end, inevitably, something like that will come up. Well, Will, these guys are going home for the summer, and maybe they want to take some of your classes. And then the students are getting on the website, and they're like, they would always say, do you have any way for us to afford it? Any student discounts or anything? And we knew we needed to do something, and so the subscription. People were asking us, can we make payments on it? How do you make payments on, basically, content that you're going to give somebody, and if they stop making, that whole thing. We don't want to create enemies and be going after people that weren't paying and stuff like that. So the answer was come up with a subscription, and then make sure you're adding enough content each month so that hopefully people stay with you, or at least a number of people stay with you and stuff. So
Will, there's something to be said though about what you do offer at the school, right? It's great content, and so I think that it's worth what it was costing. So it's, if you go to the monthly subscription fee, are you going to continue to add a bunch of different tutorials or classes to the curriculum, or will it just be pretty much the same thing that you have now?
Okay, so that's a good question. So here's the plan. This was the big gamble. If we get enough subscribers, then yes, we will buy. We've already got it lined up with a lot of teachers, really good, big name people in the industry that have already asked us if they could teach for us. And our answer is, if we get enough subscribers, we will have the budget to buy stuff from you. So right now we've got about 5 teachers lined up, and we've got the money to pay for them. So we're definitely getting that content. What will happen in the future if we don't get enough? then maybe we killed the goose that was laying the golden egg, and maybe SVS has a short run. I don't know, and it was a big gamble, but it was the flip side of that was that we just had so many people that were constantly telling us, I can't afford it, I'm waiting, I'm saving up. Are you going to have a sale? Are you going to do a promotion at Christmas time? Are you, is there some way to, again, lay away? People were like, well, I'll just start paying you monthly, and then when I'm finished, and can you just keep track of it? And we're like, we don't know how to do that. So we're just hoping that the numbers are there, because nobody's going to want to stay subscribed if the content is a dead site, So it's got to be. Our goal is to add a new class every week. That's what we're hoping to be.
Wow, that's a lot. One every week?
Yeah, every week. That's our goal. We won't hit that probably in the next 3 or 4 months, but
or ever. But continue. Don't worry about it. Let's just play make believe. Yeah, every week.
We're committed for two a month for the next 4 months. So that's what we've committed to doing.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, 2 a month.
That's a lot of content. Actually.
It is. Yeah.
They have just to name off the instructors that they have yours truly, Will Terry, they have Jake Parker, they have Lee White, Therese Larson, Brandon Jeffords, Guy Francis, Ty Carter, Jose Kua?
Kua. Mm-hmm.
Kua?
He's in Singapore.
Jim Madsen. But
Jim Madsen's coming in a couple weeks.
Tell him he's got to submit a photo.
Oh yeah, why?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's not supposed to be up there. I think my son did that, and he's gonna get spanked.
Yes, the one that was playing Xbox.
Yeah.
Wasn't the dog on the iPad?
Yeah. Yeah, that's not supposed to be up there yet. But yeah, Jim Madsen's coming.
All right.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, they got quite the lineup.
One of the things that we do. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say some of the classes that you offer are. Where'd they go? There they go. Let It Glow. So you teach people luminous lighting, chaos control, sketching in ZBrush for designers, beginning Photoshop, fur and hair, mixed media, drawing comics. So basically, if you want to get in the creative field, don't go to AI schools or don't go to
You're never going to get a sponsor. Jeez. Hey, Will, why don't you sponsor us? There we go.
That could happen. You never know.
No, but I actually, I'm subscribed. I'm a student there, and I'm learning a lot. So I'm making a transition from 3D game illustration to pure illustration in 2D with a little bit of 3D. And so this has been the template. This is how I found out about Will, and I've been bugging this guy and following him on Facebook and talking to him. And I'm learning a lot. So it's actually a really good site. In comparison to the other sites, it gives you a completely different set of tools. So if you haven't visited, check it out. Try one of the classes. I promise you'll like it. That's why you should use us, dude. I could drop that every week. I'm telling you. All right? Every week.
I'm gonna send this upstairs to the boss.
All right. There you go.
That dog with the iPad's gonna write the check. Write the check.
Yeah, Jack. Yeah, she growls when you get near it too. If you try to get it from her.
That's my money.
I hate racist dogs. It's the worst.
Stop trying to steal his money.
Yeah, what are you stealing his money for?
Here go Charlie. Yeah, what are you stealing his money for?
Exactly. Why would you do that? Stick to the painting job. That's what you look like to me.
Gosh.
Oh, Charles.
Really? You gonna pacify me like that?
Let's talk
really?
about your art books. You have, I was explaining earlier, you have about 31 of these bad boys. Did you just illustrate these, or did you write them as well?
Yeah, so I illustrated the children's book. So I function mostly as the hired gun, I guess, or the hired hand. That's what we are as illustrators, right? We're or prostitutes, however you want to put it, right?
That's fine.
I prefer prostitutes.
Draw on the corner outside.
Yeah.
What's cold?
We do what we're told. I've always said that illustrators are kind of like the taxi cab drivers for authors, because in publishing, it really it leads from the editor to the author, and then finally the lowly illustrator. And it's an author's world. If it's funny because the author gets paid 5%. The illustrator gets paid 5% on a typical children's book, picture book. But yet, any creative decision, has to pass through the author's approval, which is weird. It's like you're the collaborative team, except you get the idea that you're definitely the junior companion real quick in the relationship. So yeah, I function as the illustrator on those. But I am writing. I've been writing a little bit, and I've got a picture book that I think I could sell. I actually almost sold one. Well, I almost became an author once, like 5 years ago, with Scholastic. The senior art director or senior editor was really excited about it, and like for a week, this book was going to get published, and then all of a sudden, the editor got cold feet and was like, "No, I don't think so." And so, I had already spent all the money. We were going out to eat every night, and just.
You got that Corvette on order.
That's what you could have told Tyrus right now when he was asking for his refund.
That would be a dinner. Hey, well, I got a question for you. So, when I work with a client, and the client has an opinion about a piece, right? They say, "Hey, I want it to look like this," and you know that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Do you argue with them, or do you go, "Okay, I'll do what you like"? So that's what I need to know.
Okay, so that just happened a few days ago. So I'm working with Random House on it's a children's middle grade novel, and so I'm doing the cover and 14 illustrations inside, and the main character, I gave him glasses. He's an old guy, and I can't say the name of the book, but anyway, he's an really old crotchety character, and I gave him these.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Exactly. Yeah. So I gave him these. I gave him these little spectacles, and this brings that whole conversation back into play. So I gave him these spectacles, and it didn't say in the book. It didn't describe him in great detail. It left that up to chance, I guess. And so I put it in there. It made the approval and everything, and then like. After we'd done the color, the author's like, "Oh, he doesn't have spectacles. I never wrote that he has spectacles." Like, he didn't write half the stuff that I put in there, He's like, he doesn't have spectacles, so they got to go. And so I'm like, he looked really good with spectacles, right? So it's all about how you ask, right? Whether you're going to win a battle or not, right? So I was really kind, and I was like, "Oh. Don't you, appealing to the art director, don't you like him better with spectacles? Like, grow a pair, and go back to this author and tell him he's wrong, like trying to get her on my side." And she wasn't into it, you know what I mean? Like, she's really cool, and she thought he looked better with spectacles too, but she went, and she's like, "No, we got to lose the spectacles." So that was one that I lost. But I have won some before by, it's, again, being nice and being personable. I think if you pitch a fit, it's never going to work,
I'll share this, and I got a client who I'm working with right now, and she's a really great lady, great idea, and she comes up with this book, and the book is primarily about a boy and a girl. Great story, but the book was focused on a boy, and then somehow some people she talked to, they decided that it would be better if she did the story on the boy and the girl. And I'm like, "No, it's a much better book by itself." And it's like you have to tiptoe and say, "I'm 100% sure it's better by itself." And the client doesn't understand. They can't see it. They can't see too much information. Doesn't always make a great book, right? Less is more.
Right.
And it's like, well, all right. So what I did was I had a powwow with some of the artists that work for me, and I said, "Look, what do you guys think?" They all agreed. So I emailed her, "Hey, give me a call. I got to talk to you about something." She calls me the next day, and I said, "Listen, we all decided it's just better the other way, but whatever you decide, we'll go with. We just want you to know, collectively, we think it's better that way." She says, okay, I'll talk to you. And I haven't heard back from her, so I'm assuming the second way is the way we're going to go. But it's so hard to navigate because you know what's best, and they don't.
Right.
It's like they just don't. So it's like, well, I don't want to offend them. I don't want to make them feel like they're stupid, but...
It's funny. How many people go into the surgeon and say, I see you're about to cut right there, but
yeah.
Don't you think if we just move your hands over here, and it really is a disrespect that we have in our industry, and it's the way it is. And I think you could get an ulcer fighting against it. It's never going to change. One thing, I have a theory, and this might piss off some people who are...
Good. That's what we're here for.
There are purist illustrators that are like, never bag on clients, never complain about your job. You are an illustrator, be proud of it and stuff. And I agree with that to an extent too. But I think it's more healthy to identify yourself as an artist, because then you're free to do lots of different projects, right? And so some people they lock themselves into this: I am an animator, or I am a sculptor, or I am a this or that. And I think it's more liberating to just say, I'm an artist, which means I can do lots of different things, because I feel like there's a shelf life. This is weird to say this. I've never said this on, live before, because it's almost too honest. But I feel like there's a shelf life on illustrators. I feel like you go through a stage where you're being told what to do, to an extent to where, at some point, you don't want that anymore. And I don't want to say you're growing up. I think it's just that you change over time. I've seen it a lot where artists evolve, and they'll either go into a gallery, they'll go from illustration into a gallery, or they'll go from illustration into teaching, or they'll go from illustration into owning a business or something. Software developers do the same thing. They write code, and then they end up in management because they can't stand to learn that next language, And I think it is frustrating to be a 20-year veteran and to have people that have become art directors like 3 years ago, making arbitrary decisions on your art, and you've done it, for 20 years, and they're telling you to make these stupid decisions, these stupid changes, these arbitrary changes.
And the funny thing is, no one wants to be an artist until the artist shows up.
Yeah. That's so true.
And then all of a sudden, everyone is a professional, and they wanted, that blue is too gloomy, and
Yeah. So
professional. Like I always say, don't let me fix your brakes. Go find someone who is passionate about fixing brakes.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a job one time where, this is if you were going to do a caricature of the bad illustration assignment, this job would have given you plenty of material to write that comic. I was literally told, hey, and so we're going to meet in a committee to discuss each sketch, and make changes, and and everyone will have a chance to sign off on it, and to pat, and all the problems with that, because then
that's a nightmare. Oh my gosh.
Some people have to make a change or they're not doing their job. So by nature of the whole chemistry of that process, you're inviting arbitrary changes. But it got even better, because then they said, now there's the overseeing committee, which they're too busy. They're like, one of them's the CEO of the company. Some of them are come from committees, because this was a pharmaceutical thing. And they said those guys, they'll only look at the final artwork when it's in color, and then that's when that committee will meet on the art. So it's like, not only are you screwed.
That sounds scary.
Yeah. I'm about to cry just thinking about it, and I haven't cried since '87. So yeah, that's terrible, man.
I was working on this project for this small video game company in Chicago, and the guy that they put in charge of the project, he was leading me down a path. And then, they made me create 6 different designs, and then he picked one, and we're going down this path. And then when we're getting close to finishing up, the owner of the company steps up and says, "You know what? We're not going to pay you because you're not doing anything that we asked you to do." And I said, what are you talking about? Like, and I showed him email after email. Like, he was the one that was guiding me down this path.
Mm-hmm.
He says, no. So he pulls the cord on the project. Come to find out, all the while, they were working on one of my original ideas. That they had someone else working on it because
Oh my gosh.
I guess the game creation part of it had died down a little bit, so they flipped someone over to the website.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
There's so many horror stories, and it's unfortunate because there's so many of us, and there's there's always fewer jobs, fewer assignments, and so the industry is kind of ripe with people taking advantage. But I think that the more you do it, the better you are at kind of sniffing some of those things out and coming up with ways to head those things off.
Sweet.
We have a couple guys on the panel who also have their own children's books out in the market. What are some of your favorite, the three of you, Will, Tyrus, and Jack, what are some of your favorite battle stories when it comes to creating your own book?
Oh,
What are some of the challenges?
Go ahead, Tyrus.
go ahead, Will. nice try.
Let's start with Jack.
Are you talking about? Are you seeing like when you're writing and illustrating and trying to come up with your own story?
All of it, like from concept to opening up the box with your final product in your hand. What are some of the challenges that if some of our listeners might want to get into children's book illustration and creating their own children's books? What are some of the pitfalls that they should look out for?
I can't speak from start to finish on writing and illustrating because I haven't done that except with the story apps, and those were actually harder in some ways than children's books. But as far as the illustration goes, I think for me it's daunting. You want this job. You are dreaming that they'll pick you. Maybe they're saying, "Hey, we're thinking about what's your availability." And we're thinking about you for this job, and so that's all you can think about is, "Can I get it? Can I get it? Am I going to land it?" And then you get it, and then now you've got all the fear hitting in because now you got to do it. And my best advice is just to know that they picked you for a reason, and that means they have faith in you. But the other side of that is breaking it down into logical chunks. And the one that I'm doing now, it would have been really hard for me to have done even 10 years ago. The middle grade novel for Random House, and but through the process of learning how to break it up into thumbnails, doing thumbnail sketches where I can see every little sketch on the same sheet, so I can see if I've got redundancy going on, if I've got something weird that's going to look weird juxtaposed to the next image, and then just and one thing that I do is I try to really develop a relationship with the art director or the editor that I'm working with, and because that'll make things go so much smoother. And rather than guessing, one of the things that I do is I'll say to the art director, "Look, one of the ways that I like to work is just to send you some really rough sketches that you don't show anybody else. This is just between us." And that way, I don't spend time going down, making a full drawing that is 180 degrees from what you're thinking. I can spend 10 minutes roughing out something, and that way it's got content where you can tell what's going into it, where the elements are placed, where the characters are placed, what they're doing. Is this anywhere close to what you're thinking, or am I barking up the wrong tree? In fact, on the job that I'm working on right now, I took it a step further, and I wrote a sentence because I had to do an illustration for each chapter. One illustration to sum up the whole chapter, and it's a middle grade, so a chapter is only like 2.5, 3 pages, but still, I don't know what she wants me to illustrate in that whole chapter, so I picked what I thought was the most interesting part, the main idea, I typed out a sentence, or I copied and pasted a sentence from the book and said, this is what I want to illustrate. And I had her sign off on those first. And she went to her editor and checked, and they came back with a few changes. Like, most of them were like, yeah, that's perfect. That's, you're on, and I had to read the book, which is funny because we were talking about education before, Tyrus, and I hated reading. When I was going through school, I absolutely hated reading. So it's kind of funny that I'm in a business now where I have to read the article before I illustrate it, or read the story before I illustrate it. But getting familiar with it really helps. And sent those off, got approvals. Sent the really rough thumbnails off, got approvals. And now I'm in the stage of where I'm sending off rough sketches, yet another stage. But this is all stuff that it's not extra work. It's the same work that I would be doing anyway. I'm just breaking it down more. I see so many illustrators struggle with this. They'll do these polished sketches, they'll send them in, and then they get these changes, and then they complain to me and say, Will, what do I do? Like, I did all this work, and they're changing the whole thing, and I don't think they're paying me enough. And I'm thinking, well, you're not communicating enough early on, because you can save a lot of time by doing that. But you have to prep the art. You'll freak them out if you saw what I sent in. It will freak an art director out if you don't prepare them for like how rough it's going to be.
I'm in school right now. I'm learning, man. These are good pointers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask overall how that rough stage kind of works, because I've in various mediums, whether it's web or graphic or illustration, like I try to always start at that point just because it's easier to do that rough stage so you don't waste a ton of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that 9 out of 10 clients just don't get that. They can't see the vision. They can't see past. Like, you need to show them something pretty finalized. I mean, obviously you're working with people who do this for a living and have seen a lot of work. But I mean, even so, I'm just curious how all that works out.
You bring up a really good point. There's some clients that you couldn't do that with because they don't have the vision. They don't work with the volume of illustration. And so Random House, they're going to be dealing with. That's all she does all day is deal with. She's probably working on 10 or 12 books at one time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've had clients before where they see your sketches and they're like, and they're good sketches, and they're like, they just don't have. They're like, now you're going to do color on this, right? Like, yeah, So yeah, you're right. That's a good point. You can't do that with everybody, unless you're really good at communicating and saying, look, I just want you to tell me what is happening in this. Like, I'm talking like I do characters that are stick figures with circles for heads and a circle for a torso, or a shape for a torso, and just the action of what this character's doing, and it doesn't look anything like the character. And I almost think that's better because when you don't put a face on them or anything,
totally,
it's so abstract that they have to be kind of a moron to not get what you're trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
Although they exist too. So
yeah, I can relate to all this that you're saying. Like, even in the motion design world, it really helps you out to storyboard something out before you get into animating, because depending on where you come at this kind of work from, any creative work, if you're coming at it from more of the artistic side or more of the storytelling side or whatever, for the viewer, the story is the most important part.
Mm-hmm.
That's what pulls everything together. So if you're not roughing out the overall story or the overall framing or whatever, and if I just dive straight into the look side of things, then I'm sort of missing the bigger picture.
Absolutely. And that's what I used to do, and I used to just tear my hair out, and that's why I know not to do that anymore.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's the equivalent of, you mentioned storyboarding, and it's, good children's book illustrators or children's book illustrators it wouldn't hurt them to take a storyboarding class, because that's essentially what your thumbnail stage is.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand that. I was never taught that, when I went through school.
Will, so I got another question for you. Do you ever run into the problem of?
Hang on before we change the subject.
Oh.
On the other side of that, I've actually worked with a company in Germany. Actually, they were looking for a logo design, and and I just sent some roughs, and I said, these are going to be roughs, just take a look at it, and they loved it. They on the rough. I was like, okay, job done. Sorry.
Yeah, that could happen too.
All right, Tyrus.
Oh, shut up, Charlie. I don't need your permission. Hey, here's my question, Will. Do you ever run into the problem where you're doing work, but it's not your best work, but you have a deadline, and you're worried about it being produced? You know what I'm saying? Like, so you got to get it done. It's not your best work, but you got to get a paycheck. And once it's out there, it's always out there. Like, and how do you handle that when you do?
Okay, 2 stories. I went to school with Brett Hellquist. He's the illustrator that did the series of Unfortunate Events, the middle grade novel series that Jim Carrey starred in the movie and all that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually live 4 houses down from where he grew up. Anyway, that's like dumb information, right?
It'll help.
Just get a handle on that.
Setting the scene.
See if you can get your brain around the fact that his parents still live there.
Oh boy.
Establish that. So the direction that he took was, and I don't know how he had the decorum to do this, but from the very beginning of his career, he tried to turn every assignment into gold, and he did. And I don't know what I was making, but it wasn't gold. And I was my thing was, if someone asked me to do a job, I just took it. And early on in my career, I got overloaded often, and ran into the problem that you're talking about. And so I would end up rushing out stuff for the money, you know, because it was like, how can you say no to money? It's money, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I want to pay you, and then this other guy's saying I want to pay you, and then this other guy's saying I want to pay you, and so there were times in the late '90s were my heyday for money. I mean, like I was making well over 6 figures as an illustrator for 3 or 4 years straight, and I even started keeping a calendar and writing down the jobs. Now somebody said something funny. What was it?
No, keep going. No.
Keep going. It's not you. You're describing a friend of mine to the T, and it's amazing.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So I started writing down, because I finally had to start turning down work, and I would write down the job every time I turned it down. And in '98, I believe, or '98 or '99, I turned down like $75,000 worth of freelance work. But I was taking too much at the same time, and I turned out a lot of crap, burned through a lot of clients that never called me back, and it was a hard lesson to learn when on the other side of that the phone wasn't ringing as much, you know. And I could have established these amazing relationships with clients where I had repeat work. Instead, I was doing one thing for them. They saw one thing in my portfolio, and then they weren't getting it. Another bad thing that I would do is I was getting advertising work and I was getting editorial work. The editorial clients were paying, $400 or $500. The advertising clients were paying $4,000 or $5,000 for one painting. And my attitude was, if you're going to pay me $4,000, I'm going to give you a really nice $4,000 job. If you're going to pay me $400, I'm going to give you a $400 painting. The problem is that the $4,000 or the $400 client is seeing the $4,000 work in your portfolio, and that's what they're signing up for. And as I had no artistic integrity at that time. I didn't get it, and I was killing my career, and I didn't know it. And luckily, I survived through that. But I watched Brett, and he was he's like, well, how do you take so much work, Like, and I think what he was saying is, how come you're doing such crappy work all the time? Like you're, and he's a huge name in the publishing world. He's kind of a celebrity when he walks in. In fact, because he lives in close proximity, he lives in New York, but he was out here last month, and he came over, and we were just talking about careers and the things that we had done. Kind of a side note, but he was he was talking about how he still works traditionally and he's trying to make the switch to digital, but he's not sure if he really wants to, because when he goes in to HarperCollins or to Random House or to Simon Schuster and he brings in his artwork, the whole floor comes in, all the art directors and all the editors come in to see original art because it's so unique now in this digital world, you know. And so he gets all this play, and it's like fed even more into his celebrity status at those publishers. But he's really made a name. He just doesn't have anything bad out there that's got his name on it. I do, and I think for the long-term goal, if you're going to really go for the home run, is to kind of pattern it more after what he did. Whereas, you know, don't take something if you don't think you can spin it into gold. However, there are a lot of lessons that you can learn by doing crappy work too. So, you know, I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's hard because too, if you take on too much work, sometimes that's when your real moments of brilliance come out, when you're really under the gun, and like there's really no easy way to answer that question.
That's right. That's a good point. Yep.
I hear you. But also, getting back to the first story you told, don't you feel like, because I'm a freelancer as well, I guess really most of us are on this panel, but anyway, a lot of times I feel like client management and dealing with the way you speak with people and all that stuff is sometimes half the job. You know, like in terms of like how much time you put into the correspondence and like really maintaining relationships and all that stuff. Like that becomes it's so overlooked by a lot of people, but it's so important.
The sad thing is, I think our young people today are so used to texting, and you know what I mean. I think their communication skills are different than when we.
I got a buddy that I'm always trying to mention things to, like, hey man, you know, like, you know, you got to talk like an adult. You know, like it's different to speak to friends a certain way, but even when it comes to like a text or like an email or whatever, keep it right. You know what I mean?
And
like,
by buddy means Charlie.
Wow.
That's just an important thing, you know, that people don't think about.
And I think that when a lot of times you're up against other illustrators to get a particular job, a particular freelance job, and I think that that's one thing that the client is looking for is like how is this relationship going to work? How is the day-to-day ongoing relationship? Am I gonna be able to communicate with this person, or are they?
It's gonna be tiring.
Yeah, are they gonna be weird? Are they gonna? Yeah. You know, are they gonna not say stuff? You know, just. And it's hard to tell somebody to not be weird, right?
Yeah.
You're weird. Stop being that.
Yeah, quit creeping them out, right? Like, yeah, there's a lot of different sides to that. And you figure, like, let's say you got two people with the exact same skill set, same output, and if one of them can't communicate, then that person's probably not going to get chosen. So you always want to put your best foot forward. I mean, I know that's, like, obvious, but it's kind of overlooked.
Yeah. Even if you have tons of talent, but you come off as hard to communicate with, the person with not as much talent who's a little bit friendlier, chances are they're going to get the job.
Yeah. And how you deal with feedback, you know, if you're kind of a curmudgeon-y, kind of like always annoyed by every little comment, all that stuff, they're going to remember that next time too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, if they would have asked you, can you take those glasses off, and you like flipped a table, do you think they would hire you for another project?
Just rip the iPad out of the dog's mouth. Give me that. You know?
So are you guys trying to tell me I should stop flipping tables? Is that what this is? Is this an intervention right now?
This is an intervention time.
You know, I guess if you brought it up.
if I had one message to send to students, it is I don't know how you're going to make it in a freelance world if you don't talk to people. And the good news I think is when I was in school I was rather shy, you know, and now I feel like I'm pretty outgoing, and I really enjoy talking in front of groups, and that would have, you know, if I had to speak in front of class, I would have I wouldn't have come to school that day, you know. So the good news is you can change, but you've got to figure out how to change by taking opportunities and reaching out. One thing that I would challenge people to do is if you've got a client, instead of just emailing back and forth, freaking pick up the phone, ask your client, can I call you? You know, can I talk to you? Can I Skype with you? Can I, you know, and have some small talk. Don't be so, you know, feel out your client. If they feel like they're in a hurry, don't hold them up with small talk, you know, but you know, try to assess the situation and know that a lot of times the client is scared of you too. You know, they're afraid to talk. Sometimes they're a little bit introverted and they don't know what to say and they're not sure how things are going to go. But if you can try to turn them into your friend, I've got clients that I've worked with a lot that have become friends online. You know, I did a book called Pizza Pat. It was the first book that I ever did, and the art director is Jan Girardi, and we're friends on Facebook now. You know, and we just kind of have this fun relationship. And even though we did another book maybe 5 or 7 years ago, but it's just, you know, if you can turn your contacts and your clients into friends, you're going to be connected into an industry that's going to embrace you that much more, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Those connections lead to other connections.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, they're trying to get to the same goal that you are.
Yeah.
You know, so why not get there together and not be fighting each other and
yeah.
whatever. They want to be able to depend on you. So.
You know, a lot of the art directors, they want to be you. They want to
right.
be in the freelance world, which I wish somebody would have told me that in the beginning. That your client, the ironic thing is the client that's hiring you is actually kind of jealous of you.
Yep, absolutely.
A lot of them, not all of them, but some of them, you know. Yeah.
And always remember the old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So why not grow that relationship with the person who just gave you a project?
Absolutely.
And next time they go to find someone, they say, oh, that guy Will, he's really friendly. We should call him back up, see what he's doing.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And humans are weird. We'd rather work with somebody that we know. You find like you'll go to the same restaurants because you'd rather, you know, you're going to get something decent rather than, you know, there's a restaurant you haven't been to that looks cool, but you're just afraid of it, you know, because it might not be good.
Yeah, comfort. Being comfortable. Yeah.
It's that whole Cheers norm thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go get a beer wherever you want, but you really do want to go to where everyone knows your name.
That's right.
Oh, how poignant.
I'm deep like that.
You know, I can just imagine you guys in school. I used to have a crew kind of like you guys when we were in school, and we played this game called Bloodsport. I don't know why we called it that, but we played it in the halls. And
I thought he was gonna say we played a game called Hide the Pickle. Go ahead, we'll keep talking.
Is my mic going out or something?
No, he just had a flashback.
Okay.
That was Tyrus's favorite game.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
It's your mother's favorite game.
We would take racquetballs, and the school that we went to, it had the halls went in a square, and then there was an atrium in the middle, and the atrium had these windows that you could look through to the other hallway. And so the idea was that you'd run around with these racquetballs and try to hit somebody through the window. You know what I mean? Like you throw it through the atrium and try to nail somebody running on the other hallway.
Oh wow!
And, we got shut down after we started destroying artwork on the walls. You know.
One of Will's classmates is pitching for the Yankees.
Maybe something got broken after that.
Yeah, we broke the elevator. We broke the clock. They still remember our group that went through there. So that kind of goes back to online classes. I don't think you're going to get a lot of blood sport going on with your classmates. You know.
That's kind of how I met Charlie. Charlie was coming into school to take a look around, and they told him come hang out over the weekend. We used to have 2 labs, and it would have like 10 to 20 people per lab, and we're playing like Quake and all that stuff.
It was the weirdest thing.
Battlefield.
They were like, it was the first week of school, and it was with my other buddy Wes, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna go up to the school real quick," and I was like, "Why? Why are we going up there? There's no reason why we should be going up here right now. Let's go somewhere." They get up, we get off the elevator. There's all type of obscenities. They've like flashed like 24 computers or something like that to do this and installed all these games. And over everyone, over the whole murmur, in this quiet building, you hear Carlos talking about someone's mother. And then you hear other buddy Josh replying, but they're not in the same room. They're like down the hall, and they're yelling that loud. I was like, this is ridiculous. And it was kind of like how I met Carlos's group of people he went to school with, his boys, and then like since we were younger, we all kind of merged, and then I eventually met Tyrus through other people in Carlos's group, and then
was that the first Quake game?
It was like Quake and it was like Battlefield.
Battlefield.
But it wasn't Battlefield. It was the mod based off of.
Oh yeah.
It was like the modded, so all the crazy things you had to do.
We would show up and we would order pizza, and next thing you know, the sun is coming up.
It's like 12, and then they're like, okay, you gotta get out the labs. I have to flash all these computers back so they work. Yes, we had it down to art form where after a while the school invested in the whole where you can do it from the main room and you can like wipe it and then bring the image back over, but it was amazing.
Will, do you play video games, Will?
I lost my life in StarCraft.
Oh.
And I was in 3 clans, and that's the last game I played.
Oh, you were like hardcore with it.
That's the last game I played because my wife broke 2 of the discs. This is back when there were discs, right? On accident. No, she broke one in my
broke your fingers
in front of
broke one in my face. And so I had some hidden, And,
what?
And then
making copies.
It's all about the clan, man.
It just came to a head where I had to decide, am I an illustrator or am I a professional gamer? And I don't play games anymore because I know who I am, and I know I don't want to have to go to the meetings again.
Well, how long have you been clean?
The meetings, exactly. My name's Jack, and I'm an ex-gamer.
Yeah, it's like, how long have you been clean, Will?
since let's see, since 2006.
Everybody give it up for Will. 2006.
Man, I'll tell you, I've been working from home the past couple of weeks, and that Batman game has been a problem.
Oh.
Like, any little chance I can get, I'm like, well, maybe I can sneak away. I'm rendering. I'm at full power over here.
Talking to Patty, yo, you got to render now? I got to go. I got to play this game. I'm playing it right now. Problem.
One of the things that I read about that game today that was crazy to me was the Xbox One version, like the poly count on Batman alone is more than the entire environment in the 360 version of one of the other games.
Wow.
That like blew my mind. I was like, what the fuck?
Wow.
That's all.
That's all I have.
Well, I
all.
tell my students, if you're gonna play games, your artwork's probably gonna look like you're playing games. You know what I mean? Like and I know people hate hearing that. Well, I have it under control, but there are some people who can, and then there's people like me who can't. And if if you find out that you're like me, it's hard to unplug yourself. You have to have a wife that starts snapping discs in your face, And so I learned about me. I also played the career mode on what was it, Gran Turismo. Now what is it called now? Forza or something like that.
Yeah,
you guys are all.
There's a Forza and a Gran Turismo.
Yeah, so
I went through my class too.
And it's just, my problem is I like to win. I like to succeed. And when you have a game that and you have like friends saying, let's get on, and you work at home, and there's really no reason why you're the boss. You can't, you can just put work away and start gaming in the middle of the afternoon, and then 2 or 3 hours later you realize you didn't get anything done, and yeah.
Depressing. Yeah.
I would play throughout the night, and I would wake up with a migraine and be like, what's going on with me? Oh, my eyeballs melted through my skull.
Yeah. Well, time moves at a really fast rate when you're playing games. Like you talked about waking up, like this till the sun comes up. That's happened before for me, and then that kind of just wrecks you. So I'm glad that I don't have any of that going on right now, even though it's tempting with some of the games that are coming out right now.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys find time to play. I can't find time. And then I feel guilty. Like if I take 2 hours to play a game and I know I have so much work to do, it's not even worth it. I can't even enjoy it.
That's because you're responsible.
Allegedly.
Hey, now I'm responsible. I just don't. I don't have a family like you guys do.
Tyrus has like 15 kids.
Yeah.
A bunch of work. Like it's like that's why I can't find time.
Charlie's his oldest.
Yeah, he is. He's expensive too.
He does what?
Don't worry about it, son. Keep going,
That's
Will.
my job. I'm not jealous of that at all.
Oh, man.
I'm good with my one. For now.
All right, so we are at 2 hours. Wow.
It's good stuff.
Time flies here on the podcast.
It's so fun to talk shop though, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
Time. I was going to talk about the importance of stepping away from the shop as well. Spent close to a week away from technology. I didn't have internet. I didn't have text messages. I didn't have anything. I was out camping, and it was just so nice to be out there. I was setting fires, shooting guns, chopping down trees, doing like all this big manly stuff, and not one email. I completely unplugged, and it was so much fun. I was able to go out there and shoot my shotgun.
were you messing with Sasquatch?
I was.
I go for a hike every day. That's my outlet because I live in the mountains, and so they're 5 minutes away, 5 or 10 minutes away to any trailhead that I want, and I do think you need to unplug. I think that you gotta do something different and recharge your creative juices and stuff. And I think a lot of times we'll sit in the chair, and maybe you're watching a show, and then you realize you really haven't been drawing that much or creating that much. You're just kind of there, feeling like you're working, but you're not. And I think if you can identify those times and make sure that when you're not productive, you start doing something else, or even if it's sleep, you're going to be way more productive than if you just sit there in zombie mode and not getting anything done.
I agree. My main thing, I don't really even play that much video games, but my thing is motorcycles. I got a handful of them, but for me, like knowing, especially since I generally work on site, knowing that as soon as I get out of work, I get to go for a ride, even if it's just straight home, or I can take the long way home or whatever. Like that's my release. That's it. But then I end up having to fix them because they're all old and shitty.
That's how you like it.
Yeah, I like it.
Vintage. But there is something to say to that. I listened to a couple other podcasts where they are a big opponent of like getting out and walking. And some people that walk from home, going back to Carlos's original broaching of the subject, was some guys in the morning, they like leave, even if they work from home or they freelance, they leave and they go for a walk. They grab their like Starbucks coffee or whatever, and then that's kind of like they get back, then they start their day. So it's almost like they've kind of walked to work in a way, or they go out for their morning walk or jog around the park or whatever, and then when they get back, they go sit down and they get straight to work, Yeah. So that could be something for you guys try.
One thing I do if I start feeling like I'm fatigued or something is I'll give myself like, you get to go and do X, whether it's go to the gym and play racquetball or go for a hike or something after you accomplish this much drawing or painting or whatever. You know, and I don't. You guys probably do that too. But I give myself these little, like if I'm starting to feel antsy, like I want to take a break right now, I'll say, okay, I'll be the boss when you finish this part of the sketch or drawing or painting or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you feel good about it, you know.
Yeah, it's that goal orientation you come up.
From your computer or when you're brainstorming.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you go out in the middle of a park, let's say, and just do pencil sketches for some illustration that you're trying to get through?
You know, if I have an assignment and I'm having a hard time coming up with ideas, I will think about it. Like I'll take them with me on my hike and just kind of think about options and stuff. And I'll often take a little notepad with me so I can jot down ideas if I get them. Or if I'm going, like if I ever go to the doctor's office with my kids or my wife or something, or I always have my iPad with me, and that's where I spend the time when I'm in a place where I can't really do anything fun. You know, it's a meeting or it's like I said, a doctor's office, or waiting for to pick up my kid somewhere in the car. I've got that iPad, and that's when I work on a problem that needs to be solved mentally, rather than and I can still draw and generate ideas while I'm drawing, but coming up with that idea is usually the hardest part for me, and getting that idea down. Once I get the idea and it's solid, it's just so much easier after that, you know.
All right. Anyone else have any last questions for Will?
We're all questioned out.
That's it. It's good.
Well, thank you so much, Will, for being on the show.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hang on, let's do that again. Thanks, Will.
Well, you want the clap?
Yeah, I waited for his terms. He was like, I'm not going to do it because you told me to.
I don't need your permission.
Hey, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Now he's going to go bananas. Mr. Will Terry, if people are looking for you online, where can they find you?
Just at willterry.com. And
where do they find these classes?
www.svslearn.com.
I'm going to go sign up.
You can just IM me. I'll give them to you half off. I'm going to get my money back, Will, one way or the other. If you want the half off price, email me, guys. You know how to reach me. You've been doing this long enough.
Tyrus is a reseller.
That's
TyrusBay.org.
Tyrus Bay.
No, that's awesome. So, hey, thanks a lot for having me, you guys. You guys have a good thing going here, and I'm definitely going to share your podcast with my people. So
it's usually better when Tyrus isn't here, but I appreciate the compliment.
I'm trying to figure out what you guys have going on. I notice you're on opposite sides of the panel there.
Who? Charlie and Tyrus?
Yeah.
Intentional.
What's the bad blood? There's got to be something that happened long ago.
There's no bad blood. He's my son, and he doesn't like it. He's always second place, and this is what happens when you're always second place. It's like Scottie Pippen and Jordan. Scottie Pippen hated Jordan because Jordan was Jordan. That's what this is like.
Week in and week out.
I really like black bookmarks.
Just what? Carlos
said the Puerto Rican cigar.
Yeah. Carlos is mad because he can't grow a beard.
Yeah, he's in fifth place.
Not at all. I'm not.
Like it.
I did notice that, Carlos, you're the only one without facial hair.
We had to have a girl on the panel, so we're diverse like that.
Didn't have enough estrogen, so.
Just a little question, but no females, huh? You didn't go to school.
Let me answer that. Let me answer that. Listen, I'm not going to answer that because Carlos.
Don't answer that.
We've had a lot of female guests.
We've had
a lot.
Guests,
Like 2.
but
We've had more than 2.
Ladies are generally a lot busier than guys are.
Yeah.
They won't.
Busy.
They're responsible.
Yes, there's a lot of that.
Responsible for sandwiches. Who said that?
What?
I don't know.
Charles, where can people find you?
So you can find me on Twitter at CBW3, or you can go to cargocollective.com/CharlieBWilliams.
Excellent, thank you, sir. And Jack Hasper, Zach, where can people find you?
I am at sketchbookjack.com. Also, sketchbookjack on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that goodness.
Patrick Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh yeah, thanks for whatever. You can. Yeah, screw it. Yeah, you can find me at cargocollective.com/PatrickEdge. Or whatever.
Gaucher. Paris Gaucher, where can people find you?
You can find me at Will Terry. Oops. I mean, you can find me at TigoSketch.com, Tigo Sketch on Instagram, Tigo Sketch on Facebook, or just Google me.
Yeah, there you go. It was the way he said it too, you know.
Just Google.
Just Google.
Make sure you have the adult filter on.
You're not supposed to carry a business card anymore. You are supposed to say Google. Right?
That's interesting.
And I am Carlos Gomez. You can find me at carlosrgomez.com or Coconut Justice on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those good things. And this has been the Sketchstone Podcast, where you, the listeners, can participate in this podcast if you go to sketch.zone, submit your artwork. If your artwork gets enough votes, enough high votes, you'll be able to participate in the show as well. So go to sketch.zone. You can also find us on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel when you're there. You can find us on Twitter at SketchZone. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Facebook is facebook.com/thesketchzone. And you can find us on SoundCloud too. And this week I submitted us on FeedBurner too. So if you're using FeedBurner, you can find us on there too. So yeah, that's it for us, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Take care, everyone.
See you guys.
See ya.
Peace.